What's up, guys? So today is going to be a part 2 to my first deadlift video, how I got from 225 to 625. But today, instead of talking about what I did, I'm going to kind of talk about mistakes to avoid, and that's going to be with like form and training. So I'm going to go over the form mistakes first. So I see this so much, like especially with like newer lifters. People will squat into their deadlifts. Now, the reason you definitely don't want to do that is because when you're squatting into your deadlift, you're putting your hips in a bad position, and the lower you put your hips, the more they're going to like pop out and like shoot up. When you're deadlifting, you don't want your hips to be moving back or moving up or anything like that. So putting your hips in a position like that overall is just not going to help your deadlift at all. It's kind of going to take pounds away. And I think it's just not efficient. Definitely a lot more common in newer lifters or like people who are newer to deadlifting. But I kind of understand. I understand why people do it is because we're all taught, oh, lift things with your legs, don't use your back at all, you know? So mistake number 2 that I see pretty often, or like I see people arguing about at least, is you should have no rounding. You should keep your back 100% neutral when you're deadlifting. Now, if you're rounding your lower back, I did mention this in my last video, but if you're rounding your lower back and your lumbar is shooting out, and you're like hunched over, your hips are out, your lower back is like rounded, then that's not good. That's a good way to, you know, cause problems down the line. I mean, at first, if you're rounding your lower back, or if it's not like a lot of weight, you won't see many issues. I mean, at least I don't think. But yeah, when you're rounding your back, a lot of people see upper back rounding and like just automatically freak out. Like, first of all, if you're training deadlift for strength, like absolute strength, you don't really deadlift for the hypertrophy benefits, and you're only just training for strength, you're going to get to a point where you're not going to be able to keep a neutral back no matter how strong you are. And actually, rounding your upper back is going to help your deadlift, okay? You're letting your back, like your back muscles, you're letting your lats, you're letting your delts, you're letting all those muscles like help your deadlift, right? So it's like, why wouldn't you want to engage your back in your deadlift? Now, like I'm saying, this is like the upper back, shoulders, lats, everything like that. If you're rounding your upper back, I think that's perfectly fine. I don't really see any issues with that. However, like I said, rounding your lower back is not good. That's definitely something you would want to avoid. But like I said, if you're rounding your upper back, 1, it's going to happen regardless if you're training for strength. And 2, it's going to help your deadlift. It's going to make your deadlift like more efficient. So mistake number 3 with form, I do see this sometimes in like clients and stuff and like people I work with, is their knees, like when they're starting out, is like their knees will be pointed either straight or like slightly in. So when you're deadlifting conventional, if you're pointing your knees in or like slightly just like ever so straight forward, you're kind of compromising, like your knees are gonna fold, you know, after a while. So yeah, just say I'm deadlifting, I'm going to pick it up, just like try and visualize this. Your knees are just straight or like just slightly pointed in. You're gonna deadlift and your knees are gonna cave. Okay, that's not good. And you could maybe get away with like pointing your knees slightly in or just keeping them neutral. But after you get strong enough, you're gonna kind of like cave in no matter how strong your knees are. And you see it too on squats. Like people will like squat and their knees will kind of cave in. I don't think it's as big a deal on squat. Like it's probably gonna happen more often on squat, especially if you're like narrow. But on deadlift, it's very, very important. Like for me at least, I like to keep my knees slightly pointed out. And like I said, I deadlift conventional. Me personally, I like to point my feet slightly out and I like my knees pointed slightly out, just because I know that way my knees aren't going to be compromised while I'm deadlifting. They're not going to get pointed in. They're not going to get like, you know, kind of moved around. So like I said, I like to just keep my feet pointed like slightly out. I don't want to go north-south. Like I don't want to be pointing them out like crazy. Just like ever so slightly enough. So I think that's really important, that you're really careful with like how you're doing things. You're aware of what you're doing and why you're doing it. Like I said, people aren't aware that back rounding will actually help, like upper back rounding. I have to keep clarifying this because I know someone's gonna say, oh, he's telling people to just go get hernias and scoliosis. That's actually things that have been commented on my videos, is that I'm gonna get scoliosis from deadlifting with a rounded upper back. But yeah, like I said, upper back rounding, that's fine. Lower back rounding, no, you want to avoid that. Knees out is good, knees neutral is okay, but you know, expect your form to break up. But knees pointed in, you're gonna get folded. Yeah, those are like the big 3 form things I kind of wanted to talk about today. And like I said, those are like a little bit more widespread. Like obviously there's going to be like, you know, little things here and there with people's form, especially people that are like more along the way, that are like proficient in deadlifting, you know, have been doing it long enough. There's going to be like little things. So I don't want to go dive too deep into that and just talk about like the little slight tweaks, you know, on form. So those are the big three. Okay. So I just wanted to, you know, touch on those a little bit. Now we're going to move on to training. The first thing I want to mention, this is a mistake I actually made recently. If you're relying way too much on straps, like especially if you compete, I got into a phase where like I was just using straps a lot for like deadlifts, rack pulls, stuff like that. I go on and off my heavy sets using straps. Now, you don't want to build an over reliance on deadlifts. Like if you're just, you know, strength training for fun, you don't really care, whatever, that's fine. But if you're competing, I would definitely not use them. I would use them as a band-aid or like as a crutch, because I recently got a new deadlift bar and I just like, it was just tearing my hands apart, so I kept using straps, and it kind of like, I don't know, I feel like I was becoming like a little bit too reliant on them, and just getting used to starting from the bottom, because as some of you know, I do grip and rip. So an over-reliance on straps is not good, especially, like I said, if you're competing. I would not use straps often. You'll see someone training, they're pulling 700 with like figure 8 straps in training. They'll go to meet, and then they'll end up pulling like 640 on their second. They'll try like 699 on their third, and they'll like lose their grip. So it's really important. Like this only really applies if you're competing. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. But I just wanted to put that in there. Now, mistake number 5 that I want to talk about here is overtraining. In my opinion, deadlift is the easiest to overtrain out of all the big 3. So out of squat, bench, and deadlift, it's the easiest to overtrain on deadlift. And that might only apply to me just because obviously I could deadlift more than I could squat and bench. I said the best way to prevent overtraining is to find a program, stick to it, and don't randomly max. Because early on when I first started powerlifting, or like when I got more into like deadlifting and everything, I would just randomly max for no reason. Wouldn't be on a program or anything, for no reason, just because I felt like it. And a lot of that, like just constantly maxing or like constantly going like extremely over the top heavy all the time, it's just gonna break down your body. You're gonna get beat up, especially if you're doing conventional too. Like it's so easy to get just destroyed doing conventional, and it's like you might see guys like Jamal Brown or who deadlift like 900 every week, you know, stuff like that or whatever. But for this is applying more so to the, you know, average, normal, everyday person, you know. So it's very easy to overtrain on deadlift, especially if you're in the habit of going heavy very frequently. That's something I wouldn't do. I'd highly advise against that, actually. I wouldn't max unless you're scheduled to max or hit a heavy single or hit like an RB9 or something like that. Because all that does is it breaks you down. I don't know, I just feel like it's just more important to prioritize just getting reps, getting experience, feeling your form out, things like that, over maxing and overtraining. So that's definitely a mistake I would avoid, and it's a really simple, easy one in retrospect. Like the net gain is just not worth it on constantly maxing. Like it's cool, and like I said, I'm guilty of this. I'm like an avid enthusiast of just randomly maxing, okay? So I'm not saying that I'm innocent here, and I'm not saying that I don't do it. I'm saying it is a mistake, and if you do want to get the most out of your training, it's something that you would try to avoid unless programmed otherwise. Now, speaking of program, one of the last mistakes I want to talk about is not following your program. Like, there's tons of free ones online. You could get a coach. You could look at my deadlift program. You could do any of the above. There is nothing in it for you if you are not following the program. Like, if you have deficits, you're just, yeah, no, I guess I won't do deficits today. I'll do rack pulls. If you're programmed to do the deficits, okay? And I know it's like such an easy mistake to avoid, but it's like I see people do it so often, and it's like so easily avoidable. It's gonna hurt more than it's gonna help if you just keep constantly going off program. And again, I'm not innocent here. Like, I have gone off my program that I made for myself like a million times. Like, you know, it's not like, it's so easily preventable, which is the problem. You know, like you just follow the program. Like, how hard is that? But people still go off it. I don't know. It's more fun that way sometimes. And I like, listen, I do it. Like, I'm not innocent here, but I'm just trying to give you guys advice on mistakes that I've made and am making. But yeah, one of the last ones I also want to mention is if you're not doing problem-specific accessories. If you have a problem off the floor, you don't want to be doing rack pulls. Your problem is off the floor, you can't get speed off the floor, you're struggling off the floor, and you're just doing rack pulls, like I think it's like counterproductive, to be honest with you. Like I said, it's very important to have problem-specific accessories. So you want to program your accessories to help with the deficiencies on your deadlift. You don't want to program them to help with your strengths. I mean, you can, but if you are not struggling at all with something and you're programming to just build on your strength there, I mean, I feel like it just doesn't make sense that much to me. If you guys like the video, just be sure to subscribe, because I am going to post more. I'm posting more. If I upload this video today, that'll be 3 uploads in the month of January. This is going to be a PR, okay? If you guys want to see more, definitely subscribe. Last I checked, it's like I'm at 591. If we get to 600, that'd be nice. And if you guys want to see anything else talked about on here, be sure to leave it in the comment section. If not, and you can't think of anything you want to see, I usually do a poll at the beginning of every week or at the end of every week, depends. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If there's anything I missed, because this is my second or third time recording this because I was just forgetting stuff. If I missed anything, or if you guys think I should have dug into something more, or I talked about something too much, or anything like that, be sure to comment. Yeah, so hope this video helps you, and I hope if you're making any of these mistakes, now you know better. Like I said, we're not all perfect, and I'm guilty of 80% of everything I've mentioned. I learned a lot of this through just experience, screwing up, fixing it, you know? So hope you guys can take this and move forward with your training. Best of luck. See you guys.